Welcome back through to the True Crime Lounge. I do have a Patreon that you can join for early access to episodes scheduled to come out. I also have a merch shop for all your true crime gear. For any updates on my channel or podcast, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. With that being said, why don't we dive into today's episode? Today we're going to be continuing on with our Shanda Sharer Love Triangle Gone Deadly mini-series. We are on episode 3 of this mini series, and we are halfway through it. This case is, like I said, this is one of my favorite cases to cover. But why don't we start talking more about finishing up about the killing field, forensics, the arrest, and autopsy. So, on the morning of Saturday, January 11th, 1992, a Canaan, Indiana resident, Don Foley, and his brother Ralph were quail hunting in nearby Jefferson County when they were spotted a strange object in a fellow soybean near Lemon Road. Now, Ralph's first thought was the object of a body, and though logic had dictated if it was something else. Even so, the two men went for a closer look, and at first glance it appeared to be a rubber blow-up doll, something someone had discarded and burned. But upon closer inspection, in reality became horribly apparent. It was not a doll. This was the remains of a human body. And apart from a pair of panties, the body was naked and extensively burned, and from the waist up, the legs of the victims were spread if they had been posed, and the arms were stretched skyward with clenched fists. The victim appeared to be a young woman, but her chest had been so badly burned it was difficult to tell. The most horrifying was her face and the colors. And with her face, it was without color. Their eyes were. About 10:55 a.m., Deputy Randy Spree arrived to the scene, and Madison received Foley's call and about set out to Road. And since there had been a murder in Jefferson County over 3 years, the deputy was somewhat skeptical of the Foley's brother's report. However, he arrived at the scene, and his doubts were erased. He immediately radioed headquarters and to request Sheriff Richard Buck Shipley's presence at the scene. It took an hour It took more than an hour for Shipley to reach the scene from his home in Madison, and at first glance he was appalled. He had seen many dead bodies before during his time on the force, but never was never one in such a grisly state. He was obviously, that the sheriff's department did not have the resources to handle the investigation properly. So Shipley radioed the Indiana State Police for assistance. Indiana State Detective Steve Henry, and forensics expert Sergeant Curtis Wells arrived at the crime scene at just 1 p.m. Well, Wells recorded the scene with a video camera and took multiple photos. As as taken these castings of various unknown tire tracks and footprints, he began a cursory examination of the body. With Wells' extensive knowledge in forensics, it was apparent that someone had flammable substance that had been used to distort the evidence. Examining the genital area in the victim, he noted that her panties had been pulled to the side and condition of her body indicated anal molestation, either prior or immediately after death. As he continued to examine the body, Detective Henry discovered a melted bottle containing gasoline, while the others arrived on the scene. Wells collected hair samples, and the victims removed the ring from it in the victim's finger. Examining the ring, it was from the victim's hands. Wells discovered that Jeffersonville High School class ring and the initials SGH was engraved inside. According to the book Cruel Sacrifice by Aphrodite Jones, the initial feeling among the investigators was the feeling that the result had a drug deal bang, and that No one understood what happened. Now, let's talk about the witnesses. The aftermath of what happened with that. Um, we'll start with Tony Lawrence first. Later that day, she was spending the Saturday evening watching television when the couple's youngest daughter, 15-year-old Tony, walked through the door, followed by her best friend Hope and her parents, Carl and Gloria Rippey, all with solemn faces. Before her parents could say a word, Tony began babbling incoherently, obviously upset about the near shock. Concerned, Clifton instructed Glinda to take Tony to another room while he talked to the Rippies. Now, as far as Hope is, Carl Rippey told Clifton that the girls um, said that they had witnessed a murder earlier and the details were sketchy, and that they felt they were telling the truth. After observing what had happened, Clifton asked the Rippies to accompany them to the police station, but they refused, insisting that they were going to talk to an attorney. Let's talk about since we talked about Tony and Hope, let's talk about what Lori did now. It was just after 9 p.m. when the Lawrences arrived at the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. Upon learning that a young girl in her family claimed to have information regarding a murder in Jefferson County, Sheriff Shipley quickly ushered them to his office. Tony Lawrence stated that she had spent the previous night with two friends, Hope Rippey, 15, and Lori Tackett, 17. The three had driven to New Albany in Tackett's car, picked up Melinda Loveless, 16, a friend of Tackett's with whom Tony had not met. And after picking up Melinda, they had gone to a hardcore punk rock show. After a few hours, they headed back toward home. Tony said that on the way back, Melinda began talking about a girl named Shanda, saying that she was trying to steal her girlfriend and that she wanted to kill her. This would lead to an arrest. Before the Lawrences left the police station, they informed Sheriff Shipley of the Rippey's plan to get an attorney. As he was deciding what to do next, Shipley received a missing persons report from Clark County. Shonda Sheriff, 12 years old, had just been reported missing by her parents some 8 hours earlier. Shipley felt his heart sink and read the description: the blonde hair, 5 feet and 100 pounds. The description matched his Jane Doe, and Shipley started the paperwork to get warrants for the arrest of Lori Tackett and Melinda Loveless. An investigator rushed to get their paperwork in order, and they received word of the teeth of the victim matched dental records of Shonda. No matter what direction the case went now, the hardest part of was going to be notifying her parents. So, Shonda's parents, Jackie Vaught and Stephen Sharer, were excited at the first whenever the police contacted them. They were certain that their little girl had been found and that they would be reunited with her. However, as we know, this did not happen. Um, the look on her face, they knew something horrible had happened. There was no right way to tell parents that their child is dead. Regardless of the eloquence and sensitivity of the messenger, the impact on the family remains the same. So when the detective told him Shonda was gone, Jackie became hysterical. It was almost 2 o'clock a.m. by the time Sheriff Shipley and Detective Henry acquired warrants for Tackett and Loveless. Lori Tackett's vehicle had been spotted at Melinda's house, so it was here that the investigators decided to serve the warrants. When two men knocked on the door, Melinda's mom, Margie, answered. They quickly explained to her what was happening and asked where the girls were. Margie told them that they were upstairs, so the investigators made their way to her. Entering the room, they found Melinda in Lori's bed, asleep, and Henry yelled at them to get to the two. As they arose from the slumber, they informed them um, that they were both being arrested on the charges of murder. The two teens were then led out of the house in handcuffs and transported to the police station, where they were booked in jail. So, Sunday morning comes. Dr. George Nichols conducted Shonda's autopsy, and the procedure revealed that she had suffered multiple wounds, ligature marks, and was found on her wrist, and she had several lacerations on the head, neck, and legs. Shanda's finger was in distorted condition, and that had been cut off in order to take prints. Her jaw had also been removed for the dentist to make the positive identification. The upper part of her body was covered in third and fourth degree burns, and her tongue precluded through the clenched teeth. Lacerations to the anus and rectum indicated a blunt object and had been inserted in at least 3.5 inches. In addition to the extent of the rectal bleeding, um, showed that she had been alive at the time of the assault. Most revealing of discovery of the shoot was the upper airway, indicating that she had been alive when the fire was set. Investigators began to question Melinda and Lori before transporting them to Indiana Circuit Court in Madison. A single count of murder was entered for both girls, and they were and was appointed counsel to represent them. The judge, Ted Todd, waived both girls' right to a juvenile court hearing, determining that they would be tried as adults. Melinda, following the hearing, the prosecutor, Guy Townsend, spoke with Hope Ruby's attorney regarding her involvement. By the time the media was swarming all over the case, and that the national headlines was made, the public was in shock and demanded quick justice for Shanda. The media attention also brought forth several teens who knew the accused, and they had interesting tidbits of information to contribute. Apparently, Melinda and Lori had confessed to at least 3 people, 2 of whom they swiftly made statements to Shipley and Henry. Um, the facts that were starting to fall into place while investigators were slowly piecing together what happened to Shanda. While each of the girls tried to play down their own role, most of the events happening, prosecutor, there was no way that Shanda should be brought back, could be brought back. But it was determined to get justice, a picture based upon the girl's confession and witnesses and evidence uncovered by the investigators, which will make that possible.